Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive deep into some cutting-edge audio generation.
Always.
Okay, perfect. Let's get into it then. Today, we're looking at a paper that's, well, hot off the press.
Oh,
Yeah, like submitted just last month, September 2023. It's called SoundStorm, Efficient Parallel Audio Generation.
catchy?
Right. But it's not just the name that's impressive. This thing can generate 30 seconds of audio in just half a second.
Hang on, half a second for 30 seconds of audio. That's got to be, what, like 100 times faster than what we're used to?
You got it. 100 times faster. And hold on to your hats. Because this isn't just for, the hardcore tech folks.
Yeah, this has got to have implications way beyond that.
Absolutely. Think about it. Anyone who listens to music, podcasts, audiobooks, even those, robotic customer service voices we all love.
It's true. This could really change how we interact with audio across the board.
For sure. But before we get lost in the future, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Why has generating this, high-quality, long-form audio been so tricky until now?
Okay, good point. Imagine you're trying to paint a super detailed picture. The more intricate it is, the longer it takes, right? Audio's kind of the same.
Makes sense.
High quality audio, the kind that sounds natural, rich. It requires a ton of data. Older methods had to process all that data bit by bit, like painstakingly filling in each little detail of that picture we were talking about.
Oh, so the longer the audio, the longer it took to make. Kind of like choosing between a gourmet meal that takes hours to prep or a quick microwave dinner.
That's a great way to put it. You might get amazing quality with the gourmet meal, but who's got the time these days?
Right. Speed is everything.
And that's where neural codecs step in. Think of them as these super efficient translators. They convert that complex audio info into this, streamlined digital code. And back again, of course.
Sort of like .zip files for sound.
Exactly. SoundStream and encodec are examples of those. Definitely sped things up. But even with them, long, high-quality audio still took ages.
And that's where SoundStorm comes flying in to save the day. So what's so special about it? What's its secret weapon?
Well, SoundStorm's a game changer because it brings a bunch of new ideas to the table. First, it uses what's called a conformer model.
A conformer. Okay, that sounds complicated.
It's actually pretty cool. Think of it like a master code breaker, specifically for audio. It's really good at understanding how these neural codecs we talked about structure their code.
So it's like SoundStorm speaks the same language as the codecs, making communication smoother.
Exactly. And that's just the start. It also uses a divide and conquer strategy. We call it parallel decoding.
Divide and conquer. Like when you're building a house,
Yeah.
you've got different teams for the plumbing, the electrical framing, all working at the same time.
You got it. Instead of predicting one tiny bit of audio info at a time, it tackles multiple bits all at once.
That's impressive.
It is. And there's one more trick up its sleeve. Confidence-based sampling. Imagine working on a puzzle, right? You wouldn't just try every piece randomly. You'd focus on the ones you were most sure about.
So SoundStorm zeroes in on the parts of the audio where it's most confident. Makes sense.
Exactly. And it refines the results over a few iterations, kind of like going back over those puzzle pieces to make sure they fit perfectly.
So we've established that SoundStorm is fast, efficient, focused. But does it actually sound good? I mean, quality matters too.
Oh, this is where it gets really exciting. SoundStorm isn't just about speed. It actually makes the audio better in a bunch of ways. The research paper highlights some key findings that are pretty mind-blowing, to be honest.
Okay, lay it on me. What kind of improvements are we talking about?
First off, speech generated with SoundStorm is way more intelligible. Think about those robotic voices you hear in, older text-to-speech systems.
Oh yeah, those could be pretty rough.
SoundStorm moves us closer to natural-sounding speech, so ideal for audiobooks, virtual assistants, things like that.
No more robot voices. I'm sold already.
Right. Another win, voice preservation. It's amazing at keeping a speaker's voice consistent, even over long stretches of audio. Imagine listening to an audiobook and the narrator's voice suddenly changes halfway through.
Oh, that would be awful. Totally pull you out of the story.
Exactly. And it's not just voices. SoundStorm is great at keeping the whole acoustic environment consistent. Background noise, textures, all that stuff stays consistent, creates a more immersive experience.
Yeah, those background sounds can make a big difference.
Huge. Think movies, video games. SoundStorm makes the whole soundscape feel more believable and immersive.
So we've got speed, intelligibility, voice consistency, a better soundscape. Sounds like a dream come true for anyone working with audio.
It really is.
Now, the paper also mentions SoundStorm being a big deal for something called audio LM. What's that all about?
Oh, that's interesting. You know how sometimes you have a tool that's great but a bit slow? Audio LM is a bit like that, a powerful system for audio generation, but not the fastest. Well, SoundStorm can give it a turbo boost, make it lightning fast without losing any of that quality.
So it's like the ultimate upgrade for audio LM.
Exactly.
Now, I'm super curious about this whole thing with SoundStorm generating entire dialogues. How does that even work?
All right, picture this. You have a movie script with all the dialogue and who's speaking when, right? And you have short voice samples of each actor.
Okay, got it.
You feed that into SoundStorm, along with some other AI models that handle stuff like text-to-speech and natural language processing. And guess what? SoundStorm can actually generate the whole dialogue with each actor's voice, natural pauses, even those ums and uhs that make it sound real.
That's insane. Like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It is pretty wild. And that brings up a crucial point. As this tech evolves, we got to think about both the amazing potential and the, potential risks.
You're talking about the misuse side, right? Like making fake audio that sounds totally real.
Exactly. It's super important to remember that any powerful tech can be used for good or bad. But the good news is researchers are already working on ways to safeguard against misuse, like audio watermarking.
Audio watermarking, what's that?
Imagine embedding a hidden signal into the generated audio that lets you know it's not real. Like a digital fingerprint for audio.
So a built-in lie detector for sound.
Exactly. We're talking about having the tools to tell the real from the fake.
That's reassuring. So to sum up, SoundStorm is incredibly fast, can make high-quality audio in all these different ways, and people are already working on safeguards against misuse. Feels like we're at the start of an audio revolution.
We definitely are. But to really get the impact, we got to go a little deeper into the technical nitty-gritty. Ready to pop open the hood and see what makes SoundStorm tick?
You bet. Let's get technical.
All right, let's get under the hood and see what makes SoundStorm tick. Remember those neural codecs we talked about?
The super efficient translators for audio, yeah, they were pretty cool.
Right. Well, SoundStorm doesn't actually create sound waves directly.
Oh.
It generates instructions for this specific neural codec called SoundStream.
SoundStream, okay.
And to understand SoundStream, we got to talk about something called residual vector quantization, or RVQ for short.
RVQ.
Yeah.
Catchy.
I know, right? But it's not as scary as it sounds. Imagine packing for a trip.
Always a struggle.
Instead of just chucking clothes in your suitcase, you organize everything neatly into different compartments, yeah?
Makes sense, yeah.
That's kind of what RVQ does with audio data.
Okay, I'm listening.
It divides the audio into these small chunks and then uses a series of tools called quantizers to, represent each chunk with a set of tokens.
So, like, organizing all the audio information into neat little digital compartments.
Exactly. And each quantizer in this series focuses on a different level of detail. Think of it like starting with a rough sketch and then adding finer details until you get a complete picture.
So it's a step-by-step process, getting more precise as it goes.
You got it. And the result is this layered structure of tokens.
Interesting.
The tokens from the early stages, they represent the big picture stuff, while the later ones capture those subtle nuances.
Okay, I think I'm following. So that's how SoundStream encodes the audio. Where does SoundStorm come into this? How does it actually use that encoded information to make sound?
That's where SoundStorm's special architecture comes in. It uses something called a conformer model. Really good at handling sequential data, like a string of words in a sentence.
Right.
Or, in this case, a stream of those SoundStream tokens we were talking about.
So the conformer analyzes the audio tokens and figures out how they fit together to create a coherent sound.
Exactly. And remember how SoundStream has this layered structure? SoundStorm really takes advantage of that.
Okay, how so?
It pays more attention to the tokens that represent the big picture information, kind of like focusing on the main points of a lecture rather than getting lost in the tiny details.
Sounds efficient.
It is. Allows SoundStorm to process info and generate tokens super quickly. And then we've got parallel decoding. That's what really kicks things into overdrive.
Divide and conquer. Right. So how's that work in practice?
Imagine a team of artists working on a huge mural. Instead of painting one section at a time, they divide it into smaller sections, and each artist works on their sections simultaneously.
So SoundStorm predicts multiple audio tokens at once, like those artists working on different parts of the mural.
Precisely. And this parallel approach works because those finer details in the audio are actually somewhat independent of each other once you know the big picture stuff.
So it can predict those details in parallel without messing things up.
Exactly. That's a big reason why SoundStorm is so fast. But remember, it's not just randomly predicting tokens, it's using that confidence-based sampling we talked about.
Right, the picky eater, choosing the best bits.
Yep. For each position in the audio sequence, SoundStorm predicts a bunch of possible tokens and then checks how confident it is about each one. Kind of like saying, I'm pretty sure this one's right, but not so sure about that one.
So it's choosing its steps carefully, focusing on where it's most certain.
Yes. And as it goes through those different levels of detail, predicting tokens for each level, it gets more and more confident. The result is a sequence of SoundStream tokens that can then be decoded into, well, beautiful, high-quality audio.
Okay, we've covered the neural codecs, RVQ, the conformer model, parallel decoding, confidence-based sampling. Anything else going on behind the scenes? Any other secret ingredients?
There's one more key element, the conditioning signal. Think of it like the conductor of an orchestra.
Oh, okay, I'm intrigued.
It gives SoundStorm directions on what kind of audio to create.
So it tells SoundStorm what to play, kind of like giving a composer a score.
Exactly. Without the conditioning signal, SoundStorm wouldn't have a clue what to generate. Speech, music, something else entirely. The signal gives it the context, telling it things like the desired voice, the emotional tone, specific sounds to include.
Like a set of instructions, a blueprint to follow.
Perfect analogy. Now, in the SoundStorm paper, they use what are called semantic tokens as the conditioning signal.
Semantic tokens, those are like super condensed summaries of information, right?
Like the Cliff's Notes for audio, capturing the main ideas. But here's the cool part. Where do those semantic tokens come from?
Good question.
Another AI model gets involved here. One that's been trained on tons of audio and text.
Wow, bringing in the big guns.
Right. This model can analyze both text and audio. It learns to connect the dots between the words we say and the sounds we make, like learning a new language by listening to someone speak while also reading the transcript.
So the model learns to understand the relationship between written and spoken language.
Exactly. And once it's got that down, it can generate those semantic tokens, summarizing the key parts of the audio in a way that SoundStorm can understand.
So it's like a super smart AI assistant that listens to the audio and then writes instructions for SoundStorm.
Exactly. And those semantic tokens act as a guide, shaping the audio SoundStorm generates.
Okay, so we got the neural codec, the SoundStream encoding, the conformer model, parallel decoding, confidence-based sampling, and the conditioning signal. That's a lot of moving parts.
It is. But they all work together in this intricate dance to make SoundStorm so powerful.
It's mind-boggling to think about.
It really is. And it's a real testament to how far AI has come.
Now, what really blew me away was SoundStorm's ability to generate entire dialogues. Creating individual sounds or words is one thing, but stringing together a whole conversation, that seems like a whole other level.
It is, and that's exactly what we'll be diving into next. We'll explore how SoundStorm uses all these amazing components to create those realistic-sounding conversations.
Welcome back. We've dug into the technical side of SoundStorm. Now let's zoom out a bit and see how this tech could change how we experience audio, like in our everyday lives.
All right, hit me with it.
Let's start with entertainment. Imagine watching a movie, but the music isn't just a pre-recorded track. It's generated in real time, shifting with the emotions and action on screen.
Wait, hold on. The music would actually change based on what's happening in the movie. That's insane.
It would be incredible, like having your own personal composer creating the score as you watch.
Total game changer.
Totally. And think about video games. SoundStorm could create these hyper-realistic soundscapes that react to everything you do in the game. You'd feel totally immersed in that virtual world. It'd be like the sounds are as dynamic and unpredictable as the game itself.
Exactly. And not only could it create new experiences, it could also revamp old ones. Think about classic films dubbed in any language you want, but with the voices perfectly synced, full of emotion, like the original performances.
That would be amazing. No more bad dubbing ruining the movie. You could experience any film in its full glory, no matter what language it was in originally.
Right. Speaking of language, SoundStorm could really shake things up for accessibility too. Like audio descriptions for people who are visually impaired. What if those descriptions weren't just, dry facts, but something way more engaging, something that captures the emotions, the nuances of what's happening visually?
It makes such a huge difference. Entertainment would be truly inclusive, so everyone could enjoy it to the fullest.
Exactly. And personalized learning. That's another area where SoundStorm could really shine. Imagine language learning apps where you practice conversations with a virtual tutor who sounds just like a native speaker, giving you real-time feedback, tailoring the lessons just for you.
That would make language learning way more fun and effective, like having a personal language coach right in your pocket.
Okay, so we got Entertainment, accessibility, education. What other areas could SoundStorm revolutionize?
The possibilities seem endless.
They do. Healthcare is a big one. SoundStorm could make these realistic simulations for medical training.
Oh, interesting.
Doctors and nurses could practice procedures, learn new techniques, all in a safe virtual environment.
Like a flight simulator, but for surgeons.
Exactly. They could get better and build confidence without any risks. And think about therapy. Imagine personalized soundscapes to reduce stress, help people relax, even manage chronic pain.
It's like a sonic prescription tailored just for you.
And let's not forget the creative world. Musicians, sound designers, anyone working with audio. SoundStorm could give them the power to create incredible soundscapes and experiences that we couldn't even dream of before.
Like a whole new set of instruments and an infinite range of sounds to play with. But we got to be realistic. With all this potential, there are going to be challenges, right?
For sure, any powerful tool can be misused. That's why researchers are already on it, creating safeguards to stop SoundStorm from being used for harmful things, like, generating fake audio to deceive or manipulate people.
So, like giving SoundStorm a set of ethics, making sure it's used responsibly.
Precisely. We need clear guidelines and ways to tell the difference between real and fake audio. And we got to think about jobs, too.
Yeah, the potential impact on the workforce.
As the SoundStorm gets more advanced, it's likely to automate some jobs that people currently do.
That's a valid point. We need open conversations about those impacts and how to support workers who might be affected.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance, innovation and social responsibility. Now, looking ahead, what do you think the future holds for SoundStorm? Where do you see it going in the next few years?
Well, personalization seems like a big one. We're already seeing it, but I think it's just the beginning.
I agree. Imagine devices that learn what you like and create custom soundscapes for you, adapting to your moods, what you're doing, even your surroundings.
Like having your own personal DJ and sound designer everywhere you go.
And I think we'll see SoundStorm merging with other types of AI, the ones that understand images, text. We could have mind-blowing multimedia experiences blurring the lines between what's real and virtual.
Like all your senses coming together in this amazing new way.
Right. And of course, those ethical guidelines, those safeguards, super crucial as SoundStorm evolves. We have to make sure it's used for good.
This has been an awesome deep dive into SoundStorm. It's crazy to think how this tech could change how we make and experience audio. I'm super excited to see what happens next.
Me too. It's a reminder that we're living in this amazing time of tech advancements, and it's up to us to make sure those advancements benefit everyone.
So next time you listen to music, watch a movie, play a game, think about the power of sound and all the possibilities that SoundStorm is opening up.
And don't forget to check out the show notes for links to audio samples made with SoundStorm. You'll be blown away.
Until next time, keep exploring the world of sound.
And keep diving deep.